Elina here. Welcome to class. Today we will be doing a Yin Yoga class. So Yin is a slower type of yoga where we hold the poses for a few minutes. I highly recommend having some props on hand. So you may want to use a blanket, a bolster, a couple of yoga blocks, and if you have a yoga mat, great. You can also do this on carpet or any other kind of soft surface. Let's get started on our backs. You can either take a traditional shavasana here with the legs straight, or you can take a constructive rest pose where your knees are bent and knocking together. They don't have to touch, but they kind of cave inward a bit. Your hands can be either by your side or on your abdomen, whatever is more comfortable for you. Close down your eyes and start noticing your breath here. Breathing in and out through the nose. And see if you can even out your inhales and your exhales. Start bringing your attention to the areas of your body touching the ground beneath you. Just feel your body heavy here. Yin Yoga gives us an opportunity to be quite still and tune inwards. It can really allow us to listen more to the signals of our bodies, because our mind is quieter. And as we hold these poses for some time, I want you to know that it's normal to feel sensation. And we want to feel sensation. We just don't want to feel pain. If you notice your mind start wandering, you can always bring it back to the breath. Focusing on each inhale, each exhale, and the space between them. Take a couple more breaths here. Feeling your body heavy into the floor beneath you. And as you feel ready, start heel-toeing your feet closer together. And then roll over to one side and come up into a seated position. We'll come into a butterfly pose. And if you notice that your pelvis is tilting backwards and you kind of have this rounding in the spine, try sitting up on a blanket or perhaps even a bolster. Just place it underneath your sit bones and see if that helps you tilt your pelvis slightly forward. Soles of the feet are together and they're a little bit further away than in a traditional butterfly pose that you might be used to from your Yang practice. Place your fingertips behind you, press into the floor, lengthen out the spine. And as you exhale, slowly walk your hands forward and finding your edge here. So start off at that first line of resistance and just close down your eyes and stay here. Breathing deeply in and out through your nose. And as you hold these poses, you might start to open up, and so just allow your body to adjust as that happens. Feel free to place props underneath your forehead. It can feel really nice to prop up with a bolster or blocks like this, just to have something for your forehead to rest down on. We want to make our yin practice as effortless as possible, so no muscular engagements. And the Yin Yoga has kind of 3 tenets. The first is we take the rough shape of the pose. The second is we find our edge. And that edge is different for every individual. It might fluctuate from day to day, but it's to the point where you feel sensation, but it's not pain. The third is that we hold for some time. So in Yin, we often hold postures up to 5 minutes. And it's quite different than a Yang yoga practice in that we are trying to target the deeper tissues. So not necessarily muscles, but more of the ligaments and tendons and fascia and bones, joints. The tissues that tend to be a little bit more plastic-like and they're not as elastic. See here if your body perhaps invites you to go a little bit deeper. You can remove a prop, you can adjust your props, or perhaps your body's asking you to back out a bit. So again, really listening to our bodies here, quieting down our minds, and really tuning into the signals of our body. And there is no right or wrong here, it's just about how it feels. Breathing in and out through the nose, letting go of any tension. Relax your jaw, relax your face. Stay here for 3 more breaths. And on your next inhale, slowly start making your way out. Pushing yourself up with the help of your hands, removing any props you might have had. Beautiful. If you were sitting on a prop, go ahead and remove that to the side. And we'll take a couple of moments here just on our back. So make your way down onto your back. You can windshield wiper the legs. Hug the knees into your chest. In Yin, it's quite normal to feel a lot of sensation after holding a pose. And it can be helpful to take these rebound poses in between to help our body reset, since we get very, very deep into our tissues. Take 2 more deep, calm breaths here. Beautiful. Roll over to one side. We'll come into a tabletop position. Our next pose is dragon pose, which you might know as lizard from a more traditional vinyasa practice. And here I invite you to again, use a blanket underneath your back knee. Can feel really nice if you have sensitive knees. Use your blocks and or your bolster for support for your hands or your forearms here. So I'll show you a couple of setups. So starting off with your left foot forward. Your foot will be on the outside of your left hand. And you can stay here with blocks like this, straightening out through the elbows and let your body kind of sink into your arms. If you want to go a little bit deeper, you can come down onto your forearms, onto your blocks, or you can even create a little shelf with blocks and a bolster here. So choose whatever feels good for you, or your forearms can of course come down to the floor as well if that's in your practice. And again, start off perhaps a little bit higher, and as you stay in the pose, listen to your body, and after a minute or so it might ask you to go a bit deeper. So we'll take the rough shape of the pose. We'll find our edge, which is different for everyone. And then we'll stay there for some time. Breathing calmly. Long inhales and long exhales through the nose. If you notice your mind starting to wander, you can bring back the focus to the breath, or you can imagine your thoughts as leaves in a river just floating by. Whatever speaks more to you. See if your body perhaps invites you to go a bit deeper, or perhaps it's asking you to back off a little bit. For me, it's asking me to back off just a tad on this side. So I'll raise my blocks a bit, and you find your edge. Again, the edge is going to look different for everyone, but it's basically where you feel sensation. There might be a stretch or pressure or a little bit of discomfort. Should never be stabbing, burning, painful. So learning to distinguish between those two can be quite difficult, but with practice it gets easier. Feel free to adjust throughout the practice as well. So perhaps your body asks you to go deeper, and then perhaps it's a bit too deep. So just always listen and just try to figure out the signals it's sending you. Beautiful. Slowly start making your way out, shifting your hips back, bring your left foot back, come into tabletop. You can take any movement that feels good to you here. So perhaps just kind of wiggle a little bit, side to side, maybe some cat-cows. Or some hip circles, perhaps. Whatever your body's asking for here. You might hear a lot of cracking and popping. It's all good, as long as there's no pain. Okay, other side. Step your right foot forward to the outside of your right hand. And just take a moment here to set up. So do you use your blocks? Do you bring your elbows down? Do you stay on your hands? Do you want to use your bolster? And just notice if this side is different than the other side, which is very normal if that's the case. So again, we'll take the rough shape of the pose, letting go of alignment and just kind of taking the rough shape however it feels good. And then we'll find the edge, and then we'll stay there for some time. Again, if your thoughts are wandering, you can bring your attention back to your breath. Or you can imagine your thoughts as leaves in a river, just floating on by. Breathing in and out through your nose. About 3 more breaths here. Deep, slow yogi breaths. And slowly start making your way out. shifting your hips back, bringing your right foot back to meet the left. Place any props to the side. Beautiful. And just take any movement that feels good here. And come into a child's pose. If child's pose is uncomfortable, you can place a rolled up blanket or a bolster underneath your hips. So it would go right here. If the tops of your feet bother you, you can roll up a blanket and place it right underneath your ankles, like so. And if your forehead doesn't quite touch the ground as you come forward, you can place a blanket or a block underneath, like so. So pick your version of child's pose. You can keep your knees further apart, or you can place them closer together if you have any low back sensitivities. And just let your body relax here. Your arms can be forward, or you can place them by your side, palms facing up, for a bit more release for the shoulders. Whatever feels good for you. Breathing in and out through the nose, nice and slow. Focusing on the breath. So in Yin, we hold poses for up to 5 minutes at a time. And utilizing props can feel really, really nice, as it's quite different to hold a pose for that long, and it might not be something your body is used to. So prop up as much as you need. And we want to hold the pose fairly comfortably for the duration. Want to be able to really relax in it and let go, so that we can access those deep, deep tissues like our joints and bones and ligaments and tendons. And Yin can also be really good for your flexibility, if that's something you're working on. Sometimes we can get fascial adhesions, and where our fascia becomes a little dried out and sticks together. And sometimes, if that happens, regular Stretching won't do anything, because the fascia encapsulates the muscles. So if the fascia doesn't stretch, neither will the muscle. Two more breaths here. And slowly make your way out, pushing down through the hands. And we'll take a rebound pose on our stomach. So let's come onto our tummy here. You can rest your forehead on your forearms. Take any movement that feels good here, perhaps wiggling the hips side to side, windshield wiper the legs. And then just rest here for 10 deep breaths. Just allowing the weight of your body sink into the floor beneath you. Feel everything relax. Feel your bones heavy. Two more breaths here. And slowly make your way up. Our next pose will be sleeping swan, which is, you might know it as pigeon. So we'll come into a downward facing dog just for a moment and to get the right alignment. So push up into your down dog. You can pedal out your feet here if that feels good for a moment. Take your right leg, bring the knee to the chest, and then turn your foot towards the front of the mat. Now this, however much your leg is angled here, this is the angle I want you to keep in your pigeon. So no need to try to get that shin parallel to the front of the mat if that is not where your leg ended up, okay? So come into your pigeon here. If this is very intense, grab a block and place it underneath the right hip bone, or sit bone rather. You can stay here, which is a bit more of a back bend. Or if you'd like, you can come down onto your forearms. You can place a block in front of you to rest your head, or you can rest your forehead on the ground. So take your variation here. And try to just release into it. If this is, for whatever reason, too intense, you can do it on your back in a figure 4 as well. So feel free to take that as an option if this feels too intense. And see if perhaps your body is inviting you to go a bit deeper. or if it's asking you to back off. Just listening to our bodies here. Yin Yoga is very suitable for this winter season that we're in. Winter is often where we start slowing down, our energy gets a bit lower. We want to sleep more. We might become a bit more introspective. And Yin is a wonderful practice for this time of year, as it has some of those same qualities that we tend to lean towards. Two more breaths here. On your next inhale, slowly start making your way up. Pressing through the hands. Moving that right leg back, nice and gentle. Moving slowly and gently here with our bodies. You can wiggle the hips a bit side to side, perhaps take a cat-cow. Some hip rolls. All the cracking and popping. We'll take another down dog to get that position right. Again, you can pedal your feet here for a quick moment. And then bring your your left knee into your chest, and then turn and try to bring your leg towards the front and see how what angle your shin is in, and then just lower down from there. Scoot the right hip back a bit, and your hips want to be fairly level here. So in Yin, we tend to move away a little bit from the traditional alignment that you might be used to, and just finding what feels right for us. Again, place a block underneath your left hip if that feels good, and you can stay upright or you can come down onto your forearms. You can place a block in front of your forehead or a blanket, whatever feels good for you. And you can stay here for a moment and then maybe just see if your body invites you to go any deeper. Or perhaps it is asking you to back off, and that's all good as well. And again, if this is too intense, you can do this on your back and you just take a figure 4. And just notice if your mind has started to wander. Bring it back, focusing on the breath. Or you can imagine your thoughts as leaves in a river, just floating on by. And again, sensation and discomfort is okay. Pain is not. So finding your edge here. I know it took me quite a long time to be able to find my edge. My nervous system was so on alert that anything I did was perceived as pain. And I kind of got that panicky feeling. But the more we practice and the deeper we can breathe into our postures, and the more we can quiet the mind, the more we can really listen to our body and understand that it's not always pain, it's just a little uncomfortable. And with time, our nervous system will learn to relax. That's how we become more flexible. And it can also help with a lot of that pain if you suffer from chronic pain. Three more breaths here. And slowly make your way up. Pressing into the hands, you can curl those back toes under. And bring that left leg back. Again, take any movement that feels good here for you. Just wiggling a little bit. You can take some hip circles, a child's pose. Whatever your body is asking for. Beautiful. Now we're going into a pose called dragonfly, which you may be familiar with as a wide-legged forward fold or a straddle. You can do it on the floor like this. Just make sure that you're not rounding in your low back and you're sitting kind of, you want your pelvis to tilt forward, not backwards. So you don't want to be here and struggling to stay upright. And I am actually right here. So what we do then is we sit up on something. So I like sitting on a yoga block in this pose. And then it can be really nice to have a yoga block or a bolster handy. And I'll show you how to use them. So come to sit in however you can be comfortable or somewhat comfortable in a wide-legged forward fold. Now, if you're up here with me, you might not fold very far. You might stay right here. That's perfect. If you have the flexibility, you can bring your chest down to the floor, or your stomach, and then your chest, your chin. You can come all the way flat into pancake if that's in your practice. But if you're here with me, an option is to take a bolster and place it diagonally like this in front of you, and then just rest your forehead on it, and you can just kind of relax here. Another option is to place it in front of you. You can place your forearms down like this. You can also use a block here. Play around with it, see whatever feels best for you. Tilting your pelvis forward. Spine is long, and then lean forward. Or stay upright. You can even stay right here if that feels good for you. Listening to your body. Notice if your thoughts have started to wander. It's all good. Just gently bring them back. You can bring your attention to your breath. Imagine your thoughts like leaves in a river or clouds in the sky just passing by. Listen to your body. Notice any sensations and see if perhaps it's inviting you to come a little bit deeper, or perhaps it's asking you to back off. It's all good. Close down your eyes and just try to release any tension here. Relax your jaw. Relax your hips. Relax your face. Relax your shoulders. Just observe any sensation. Finding your edge. You should be able to stay at your edge for quite some time. And you'll notice if you've gone past it, if you start to hold on or clench or use a lot of muscular engagements. If that happens, just back out a little bit and then try to relax. Beautiful. 3 more breaths here. And on an inhale, slowly make your way out. Take your time here. First, get your body upright. Then you can bring your hands underneath your thighs and kind of pull your legs back in. You can windshield wiper the legs here side to side, if that feels good. And we'll make our way down onto our backs again for just a quick moment to let our spine and hips reset. So again, it's quite normal in Yin to feel intense sensation after we come out of a pose. And so lying down on your back, on your stomach, allows our bodies to neutralize before we go into the next one. And because we work in such deep tissues, it's often a bit slower than when we work with just muscles. But in Yin, because we put a lot of tension on joints and ligaments and things like that, they take a bit longer to come back to their previous states. And slowly roll over to one side and come up to a seated position. For our last pose today, we have frog pose. Now, if you are on a harder surface and you have sensitive knees, I want you to pad with a blanket underneath you. And if you do have a bolster, have it handy. So in frog pose, so I'm not going to use the blanket for my knees because I'm on a rug and then my yoga mat is quite soft. But feel free to place the mat all over your rug or place the blanket all over your mat. Then we're going to separate our knees. So your knees are in line with the hips and your feet are flexed and your ankle is in line with the knee. So your legs are in this 90-90 angle. Tilt your pelvis forward a bit. So almost imagine like you're sticking your butt up in the air. Walk your hands forward. And you can come down onto your forearms here. If this is too much, you can place a bolster underneath your, or a block underneath your forearms. Now, a really yummy version of this is you take your bolster and you place it underneath your upper body. And you can just relax down on it. And you can rest your head to one side, whatever feels good here. And just let your whole body weight sink into the bolster. You can stretch your arms forward. And just relax here. This can be quite an intense pose for many people, and having the bolster here can really help with our when we try to send signals to our nervous system that we're safe. So by having something to really just lay on top of here and relax into, we are sending signals of calm and relaxation, and so our nervous system will de-escalate, if you will, its reaction to this pose because it senses that we are safe. And again, tilt that pelvis forward. So stick your butt up in the air almost gently, but that's kind of the direction of your pelvis here, so that your thigh bones can move more free in the hip sockets. Now, if you feel very comfortable here and you want to take it a bit further, you can remove the bolster and just come down onto your chest here. Arms can be forward, chin can be down, or forehead, whatever feels better. Breathe here. Try to relax. And make any minor adjustments as your body opens. And see if it invites you to go deeper or if it wants you to back off a little bit. It's all good. Just listen to what your body wants today. Breathing nice and easy, deep in through the nose and out through the nose. Take 2 more deep breaths here. And on an inhale, slowly start making your way out. It can be very helpful to bring the big toes together and then slowly make your way out. You can stay sitting here for a moment if that feels good. That's very deep, yeah? Just allow your body to reset. And we will meet on our backs. So you want to move very slowly in a yin practice. You want to get into the pose very slowly, very mindfully, and getting out of it very mindfully, because everything is under a lot of tension. So we want to move very slowly so that the body has a chance to reset again. You can move your legs side to side, just windshield wiper. Plug your knees into your chest. And we'll come into our final Shavasana, final resting pose. You can take this the traditional way with the straight legs, or you can keep your legs bent and knees knocking in towards one another for a more restorative pose. If you're taking the straight leg version, just feet are as wide as the mat, feet splay out, arms by your side, palms facing up. You can close down your eyes here. Let's take a deep breath in through our nose. And then sigh out through the mouth. And here, let your breath just return to its normal state. Let it do whatever it wants to do. Feel your body heavy on the floor. Notice if you feel any tingling sensation, any warm areas in the body. That's a sign of energy moving. So we tend to hold a lot of energy, especially in our hips. It can make us feel very tight. And in a yin practice, we release some of that uptight energy, and you can sometimes feel it physically as a tingling or warm sensation. Feel free to stay here for as long as you'd like. And if you're ready, you can start wiggling your fingers and toes. You can take a good morning stretch. Bring your knees into your chest. And roll over to one side. Come into a seated position. Hands to heart center. Let's take a moment of gratitude for our practice and our body. And thank you so much for practicing with me today. Namaste.